Wallasey Village. It creates more jobs. I would argue that in that some of the remaining shops will close, thereby losing local jobs. He refers to the last plans that were submitted and refused. Those plans have got nothing to do with this application, and the reasons for refusing them is nothing to do with this application. So, with that, I would also like to say that over 1,000 people signed this petition. It wasn't a consultation exercise, it wasn't widely publicised, but it was people coming together saying what they wanted, or more to the point, what they didn't want in the area they live. So in conclusion, although this site has previously been a business, it was a one-storey, unobtrusive business working normal trading hours. In fact, a business that I would regard as an ideal buffer between housing and an end shop of an existing parade of shops. This is a Class A application, so I'm amazed as to why there are no results that can be reproduced from a traffic survey. I'm also at a loss as to how officers have predicted there will be a significant footfall crossing Wallasey Village without any indication of proper consultation survey. I'm not sure where they get their figures from, particularly the 102 vehicle movements. Where's the evidence? Taking into account the tremendous opposition to this proposal, the fact that there appears to be no evidence to back up the comments in this Class A application report, I would ask that the committee refuse this application on the grounds that it is an unneighbourly and unacceptable form of development and that it is contrary to policy SH6. I also believe it could be further refused on the grounds that the impact of vehicles and the footfall has not been assessed. I know officers are keen for any refusal to be watertight and that they take into account the costs of an appeal. However, I don't believe that the cost of any appeal should weigh heavily in any decision which the committee comes to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser. I'm going to open it up now to the committee. There seems to be a lot of concerns about traffic and immunity and noise. So, has anybody got any questions of the officers? Paul?
Thanks, Chair. I just wondered if the officers could tell me of any other example in the borough where there's only 44% of the maximum parking allowed in it with an A1 class usage, if you like, a store that's planned at this size.
Thank you, through you, Chair. It's not that there's only 44 to 50% parking allowed, it's that the maximum height is 50% or 44% of the maximum parking is allowed. I mean, to my recollection, there are other instances where there's parking less than 100%, and members will recall we've probably had conversations about those applications that come forward for convenience stores where the parking is less than 50%. In some cases, zero. Although, off the top of my head, I couldn't say exactly where they were, but there are instances in our area that we've discussed with this committee.
Is there any questions?
Sorry, Chair, I think the gentleman from SCP really presented quite a number of questions for our traffic and transportation officer. I'm not sure if he was making a note as he went along, but one that stood out to me was the fact that there's no transport statement. Can I ask why there's no transport statement?
Thank you, through you, Chair. There's no formal transport statement with this application, but we took the view that the submission included the servicing details, which is one of the issues that we were concerned about, and also the parking arrangements, which again was one of the issues that we were concerned about. We've taken the view that development of this type, at this location, on a primary route like this, isn't going to generate a significant additional volume of traffic than what's already on the road itself. Rather, they're going to be bypassing vehicles that are going to nip into the store to do their shopping. So, as I say, the issues that we would have asked for in a formal transport statement are already included as separate documents within the application. So we've assessed it on the basis of those documents.
Stuart?
I was able to go on the site visits from those ones, their feedback, their thoughts on that. I think my first thought after the site visit and then reading through the report again was just to look at policy SH6, which is the policy that deals with development within a primarily commercial area. I went to the UDP proposals map to see the extent of the area, and it's very clear in fact that this site, insofar as it falls in an area that should be covered by SH6, is right on the very, very edge of it, to the extent that actually the central part of the commercial centre is, as you'd expect, by the road, and there's like a finger that comes out in order to take in the developments and the shops along here. So it's right on the very edge of SH6, and I think that's got to weigh in our mind. There isn't a development within the centre of a primarily commercial area. It's a development right on the edge. Two sides of the site are residential in nature. Across the road, as you can see, it's the school, and immediately next to it is the public house. On the other side of the public house, again, is residential. So this figure effectively just brings this into the equation. So when deciding the sort of commercial activity that should go on, yes, SH6 might be appropriate, but I think we need to have regard to the residential uses surrounding the site. And that's the first thing that I noticed on the site visit. Walking in, particularly to the rear, the sheltered houses to the rear, the way the development might impact on those houses. I know the previous application went all the way back to those houses and has now been brought forward. But the impact of that is that the servicing arrangements are now adjacent, if you like, to those houses. I don't agree with Leah's assessment that deliveries will only be at 7 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock at night when the shop opens and closes. A shop this size is likely to use a just-in-time delivery system, which will probably end up making delivery 4 or 5 deliveries a day, depending on the usage that we get. That would mean deliveries would take place, yes, first thing in the morning, but certainly throughout the day, which means that the houses to the rear of the site potentially have servicing activities taking place not just very early in the morning but throughout the day. And that distance from the front door of those houses we checked on site was just under 5 metres, not a very great distance in my view at all. The other thing that I asked on the site visits and haven't seen on the plans is what ranges have been made by the shop for waste disposal and storage. We've got the maps out, so there's a general illusion that it might be in this general area here. I couldn't see what was being pointed at. There was a box that looked like it had been on the plans, and I was like to do that. But again, once I checked on the plans online when I got home, that was described as a plant, which I take to mean refrigeration equipment and what have you, servicing the shops. That raises a question in my mind about plants being 5 metres away from people's houses as well, notwithstanding. I noticed the late addition of a condition around around plans for a waste disposal facility. But frankly, that sort of thing should be on the face of the application. We should know where large storage bins are going to be stored and kept. If we don't know at this stage, we're effectively just leaving it to chance that we'll put it somewhere. They could put it in front, which will affect street sweeping, or they could put it at the back, which will affect the ability of the residents. So I'm not overly happy that there is a lack of clarity on waste disposal on the face of it. Just moving back to delivery then, I looked at the tracking plans that the lorries would have to, both sides lorries that would traditionally would have to take. And whilst it's true that they would be able to access and egress the site in full in relating to Wallasey Village Road, that's not the case in terms of accessing and egressing the service area. They would have to drive in forward gear into the service yard, be unloaded, and then reverse out to the extent that we are moving to this. At least 5 or 6 of the car parking spaces that we're thinking might be too little would actually have to be moved to allow that move to take place. What the management of that will be, I absolutely no idea whether shoppers would have to be found within the shop or found elsewhere within Wallasey Village Commercial Centre to enable cars to be moved with the lorry to reverse out. That raises questions of safety on site, which I'll allude to within the report. In my mind, servicing arrangements and waste disposal arrangements are unsatisfactory. The effect of the development on what is close to being a primarily residential area, in fact, is also, in my view, unsatisfactory.
Are there any other comments? Pat?
Thanks, Chair. Well, following the site visit, two things occurred to me particularly. First of all, that road, when the school is open, in the mornings and in the afternoon, is an extremely busy road. And just like every other school that's going in, coming out of town, there are lots of children who aren't looking both ways, and parents who are parking in silly places and things like that. And I think that the addition of delivery lorries and people looking for somewhere to park in order to go shop in this shop will have a detrimental effect on the traffic from that point of view. The other thing that I particularly thought was not attractive was the fact that although I understand that the previous building was very close to the pensioners' flats, which are at the back, and this building isn't going to be any closer, I'm not sure that it's a good argument to say, well, something else was there before, so we can put something else back there now, when something else was there before was unsatisfactory to begin with. And I wonder, since this planning is a second planning application for the same store, whether any consideration has been given to actually changing the orientation of the building so that the store, if it was built, would have the back of the store towards number 189 Village Road. And then the parking places and the delivery and the waste would be at the end towards the house. And there would be some lights for the pensioners' flats immediately behind.
Thanks, Chair. I do apologise for labouring, but I did have a further question for our traffic officer, and that was in relation to parking specifically in SPD4. Looking at 4.7, it says that in cases where there is less parking spaces, if you like, than the maximum. And I do understand that's the maximum, but we're looking at 44% here of the maximum. It must be demonstrated that there will be no overspill parking. I mean, how has the applicant demonstrated to you that there will be no overspill parking, especially seeing as though we've got empirical evidence, seeing as though many members were here on the site visit, that there was overspill parking on the day, even though there was only 15 of us there on a site visit, and the school wasn't open because it was the summer holidays.
Do you have any comments?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I understand the point you make about SPV4, but to my recollection, it's the overspill parking should not create highway safety issues.
No, it's I can quote it verbatim if you don't have the policy with you. No overspill parking that would have an adverse impact on the safety or amenity of existing residents. Overspill parking by its very nature, especially to the extent that we saw on the day, which will be multiplied, of course, if this development goes ahead, of course, has an impact on the amenity of existing residents.
Thank you, through you, Chair. As we saw on the day, there is existing parking along Wallasey Village Road. So that parking on Wallasey Village Road already occurs. This store, at certain times of day, is likely to create parking on Wallasey Village Road, as long as there's no other parking already in place. So because the parking already occurs, I think it's difficult to argue that the parking from this store is going to cause any greater an amenity or a traffic issue from the existing parking already occurs in the road. The junctions nearby are protected by waiting restrictions. The area outside the store itself, if it were to go ahead, would have zigzag lines from the Puffin crossing, which would be more restrictive than the yellow lines. So it's my view that we would struggle to defend a refusal on the grounds of highway safety in this application.
Anita?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask a question really regarding the delivery timescales. I know it was mentioned that it was 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. so when the shop was actually closed. But can we actually put a restriction on that? My understanding is that we can't.
Can we restrict?
We can. So if this was to be approved, is that a restriction that could actually be applied to this application? Okay, thank you.
Stuart?
Sorry to be unusual, but as SPD4 has been brought up, so I remember a number of meetings ago we discussed SPD4 and its relevance in the light of plan policy framework and statements by probably car-friendly ministers in the planning line. Just glancing at the planning policy statement, it talks about, paragraph 39 talks about development should be located and designed where practical to accommodate the efficient delivery of goods and supplies. Paragraph 36, which follows it up, answers it, says a key tool to facilitating this would be a travel plan. All developments which generate significant amounts of movement should be required to provide a travel plan. Of course, good old paragraph 39 says if setting local planning parking standards, residential, non-residential developments, local planning authorities should take into account, amongst other things, local car ownership levels. These seem to me to be the policies that we ought to be judging our parking and traffic movements on rather than SPD4.
Any further comments? Well, the officer's recommendation is to approve. So before we go to that, do you want to say something, Paul?
I'd like to move refusal, Chair. I've got a form of words to move as well, if that's the end of the debate. Thanks, Chair. Having regard to the scale and siting of the proposed development and its close proximity to adjacent residential properties, in particular numbers 42, 44, 46 and 48 Marston's Road, the proposed development would result in an unneighbourly and unacceptable form of development in that it would lead to the overshadowing of adjacent dwellings together with noise and general disturbance associated with the proposed use of the land, which would be detrimental to the amenities which the occupiers of these properties can reasonably expect to enjoy. The proposal, if allowed, would be contrary to policy SH6 of the adopted Wirral Unitary Development Plan. I would like also to add, Chair, and/or this committee is also not content that the parking standards contained within SPD4 have been met and that the parking provision in the application is insufficient.
Okay, well before that goes forward, I want to just make sure that the officers are happy with the reasons for refusal so that we don't find ourselves in a position of going to appeal and doing something wrong. So I just want to check with the officers that that is a sufficient reason for refusal before we go anywhere.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I think that the reason for refusal that Councillor Hayes has allowed could be sustained at an appeal if members wanted to move the unneighbourly development. The car parking and servicing, again, it could form a second reason for refusal. Members were minded to refuse it on those grounds as well. But I think we'd have to word that quite carefully. So if members were minded to refuse as well, parking and servicing arrangements as well, then we can put the floor forward to that as a second reason for refusal.
Thank you for that. I think I'm looking at a second.
I'll certainly second it. I was just going to ask Matthew, rather than reference to SPV 4, well, the National Planning Policy Framework, and the local touchstone to go for, because I'm not much of that, secondly, the motion. I'm not overly convinced that SPV 4 is good enough to hang your hat on the grounds that we only set maximums.
I think listening to the debate there, members were minded to refuse it on the second car parking and servicing reason for refusal. I would suggest the following 4 words. The local planning authority considers the proposal to be unsatisfactory in that inadequate provision has been made within the site to cater for servicing needs likely to be generated by the proposal, and inadequate provision has been made within the site for off-street car parking needs likely to be generated by the proposed development, which will be detrimental to the amenities which occupiers of nearby residential properties could reasonably expect to enjoy. The development proposed will be contrary to policy SH4 of the adopted Wirral Unitary Development Plan and the National Planning Policy Framework.
Paul, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy to adopt those 4 words.
Okay. Stuart, are you happy to second them?
SH4, SH6.
Okay. So are we correct now? We've changed the section. Okay, so the recommendation has been to refuse. It's been proposed by Paul, it's been seconded by Stuart. So all those in favour of refusal, can you please show your hands? Okay. And all those against? Okay, thank you very much. That's been refused. We're now going to move on to item number 15. President, we'll just give it a minute.